Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mark Wadani, and I'm the Vice President of Sales at Champion Solutions Group. I want to take a minute just to thank all of you for your time today to attend this session. This is the first in a series of three that we'll be sponsoring with IBM. Today's topic is the era of modern data protection and cyber resiliency, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. And on November 17th, the session right now will be how to make AI, big data work effectively and profitable for your company. So stay tuned for those invitations. And in December is still being worked on as far as topics, and we'll also get to all those folks attending that invitation as well. As just a quick introduction into the lead of Eric Herzog, who will be our main speaker today. As I mentioned, I'm the Vice President of Sales for Champion. I have our motto up there, which is customer-led and service-driven, which has been our motto and our mission statement to our customers now for over 15 years, and I've been with the company 19 years. And we take that motto seriously. We work with our customers every day, and we drive lots of services to help them with their business every day. Eric, if you could flip the screen. Let me take a moment to briefly introduce Champion Solutions Group. We are a very successful 40-year-old system integrator with over $150 million in revenue yearly. We had a primary focus in designing, integrating, and supporting our enterprise infrastructure, storage, servers, networking, and data management with our clients. And we pride ourselves on our ability to adjust to our market needs. Under the current pandemic, we see much uncertainty out there in the marketplace. We see our clients wanting to reduce cost. And because of uncertainty of growth versus contraction, clients are looking to maximize IT using flexible scale up and scale down OpEx models and cost reduction as well. For this reason, we asked Eric and his team to present the topic today of modern data protection and cyber resiliency. And he's going to cover 5 major points. He's going to talk about cost with the IBM platform, the performance, their hybrid multi-cloud, their cyber resiliency model, and how they're helping customers with business agility. As I mentioned, we have been in business for over 40 years, 42 to be exact. 26 of those have been as a premier IBM partner. Champion became IBM's first authorized storage reseller back in 1994. So we've been with IBM a very long time. We've seen the evolution of IBM storage all the way from the mainframe to where it is today over those periods of time. And as a result, we have sold over $500 million worth of IBM storage hardware during that period of time. As you can see, every day I ask my sales teams to work with our customers to help them reduce their cost, increase their productivity, and mitigate risk. And you'll see that as a theme even as Eric is presenting the IBM platform to you today. Again, we work with our clients every day to change the economics of their data center, to be productive and hyper responsive to their business unit needs, adopt and leverage technology, and evolve in the way that their businesses are evolving today. And we see that heavily with, again, the effects of the pandemic on each one of you and how we're going to market with our customers and helping them resolve the issues that are facing today, which are different from even a year ago. On the screen, you'll see some of the areas that we attention. I don't need to go through those. You can read them yourself. And Eric, you can switch. Next slide. And again, around our IBM competencies, again, we have been in business with IBM over 26 years, selling storage, power, tape, security. The I series is continue to be a robust platform for us, along with maintenance and our design and consulting services. The reason I laugh about that is the business rags have been calling for the death of the I series for over 20 years, but it keeps continuing to be a great business platform going forward. Eric, you want to flip the slides? And with that, I want to introduce our main speaker today, a good friend of mine who has been also a very good friend to Champion Solution Group. It's Eric Herzog. He is the Chief Marketing Officer and Vice President of Worldwide Storage Channels. So with that, Eric, thank you for making time to talk to our customers, and the venue is yours.
Great. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate all of you spending your time to join us here today. One of the key things at IBM Storage is all about making it simple. That doesn't mean we defeature things at all. In fact, we make sure that we load on the enterprise data services, make it easy for you to do cyber resiliency, easy for you to do modern data protection, easier for you to keep your flash storage systems up and running. So for us, it's a big, big deal, and we value our partnership with Champion because of the way they support and service their customers. It's not just about selling a box or selling a piece of software. It's really about how you support and service it after, and Champion has done an outstanding job of doing that across all of the regions that they service and support. Now, you look at IBM, really today it's about the digital transformation. It's really centered on three things. Journey to the cloud, we have a whole set of solutions from an IBM storage perspective of how you get to a cloud configuration. How to build a smarter business. This, really think of this as AI, big data, and analytic workloads. And underpinning all of it is cybersecurity and cyber resiliency. The question is not if you'll be attacked, it's when and how often. So even a small shop today could have a weekly incursion. If you're one of the larger companies, 10 billion and up into the global Fortune 500, you're probably having multiple incursions per day, try to breach your firewall, trying to steal your data, try to plant malware or ransomware. So at IBM, we're trying to make sure that whether you're in the AI space, the more traditional space, a hybrid cloud space, we can give you that cyber resiliency and cyber security. Our platforms are very simple. We have storage for hybrid cloud environments, our storage for Z for the mainframe, and then our storage for everything else. The I series, what's left of the rest of the Unix market, the Lintel space, the Wintel space. One platform for all non-mainframe environments, one set of software that works on everything on our flash systems and our SAN volume controller portfolio. Storage for AI and big data is a large business for us. In case you didn't know, there was a survey from industry analyst IDC on AI and its use across the world. The #1 provider of AI solutions in the world is IBM. Now, that was not just a storage statement, by the way, that was the whole company. So storage, systems, what we do in software, what we do with the services, and IBM had almost a 10% of the global AI market share, according to IDC last fall. Then, as I mentioned, underpinning all of it is what we do for cyber resiliency and modern data protection. And we're going to talk about that today, of how we can deliver and how we can protect your data, make sure it's always available, always useful, and is not stolen. When you look at us overall from a leadership position, when you go with IBM, you're going with a leader. Gartner, which produces its Magic Quadrants, we have been a leader 26 times. In fact, we already know that there's 2 more coming out that we're a leader in. IDC has a similar report. They've put out 4 of those. We've been a leader in all of those. We're #1 in archiving, mainframe storage, and branded tape. Tape, by the way, has had a renaissance, and the main reason is cyber resiliency and cyber security. It has always been the cheapest way to store data, tape has been, but the added impetus has been this cyber security aspect, and there's nothing better than tape from a cybersecurity perspective. We are the #2 storage software company in the world, and one thing that Mark hit on was support and services. IDC did a survey less than a year ago, and there were 14 different storage vendors. It was a blind, aka I can't see who they are, they can't see who I are, but the end users can. And IBM was #1 in both support and services among 14 different storage vendors, some which do systems like we do with our flash systems and our DS family, and others that do software like we do with our Spectrum Protect family, which is one of the big things. And the other thing, of course, we love to tout this, 100% of the top 20 banks in the world use storage or storage software from IBM. If it's good enough for them, it's good enough for you. As I mentioned, our focus on storage made simple. So that doesn't mean just because the top banks in the world use it, it's not going to work for Herzog's Bar and Grill, or it's not going to work for Mark's Cigar Store, because it is. We've made it easy to use, easy to support, easy to service, and at Champion, they can make sure everything you need is done seamlessly and easily to cut your costs in OpEx to cut your costs and CapEx, and IBM Storage is doing that. By the way, September, IDC, which comes out with a quarterly report, IBM is actually the #2 storage company in the world. We're #2 in storage software, but overall, counting systems and software, we're also #2 in the world. So, when you're going with IBM and Champion together, you're going with winners that help you win, help you keep your data safe, always protected, and always available. So let's talk about modern data protection and cyber resiliency. The key thing here is data is the currency. We're in the era of the knowledge worker. So I have a pool service. I live in California. I'm in Silicon Valley. And he comes with his iPad. It's all the bills automatically. And by the way, you're going to laugh, but when I first got out of college, I was general manager of a swimming pool company. So I actually know how it works, and we didn't have that. Well, guess what? Now the swimming pool guy does. When the gardener comes, he's got his iPad rolling. He's doing everything automated. So even in things that you think are not traditional knowledge workers or knowledge industries, everything is about the data. And I don't care whether you're in the IT industry, like we are, or like Champion is, whether you're in services, whether you're in manufacturing, whether you're in education, it doesn't matter what you are. Knowledge and use of the data by you and your team is what matters. So the mission of modern data protection is not backup anymore. So you've heard the word backup, grandfather, father, son, let's back up the data. Today, modern data protection not only means protecting the data, backing it up, but optimizing that data. For those of you with larger accounts that may have your own in-house software developers, they'll probably tell you when they're working on a real data set, the quality of the software they develop is better and they get it out faster versus using fake data. We want to make sure that you are securing that and that you're reusing the data. If you're going to do software development and we have a real data set that's replicated or snapshotted, you can use that. And to make sure that you're protected when someone checks out a snapshot or replica, IBM Spectrum Protect product and our copy data management product let you know that Eric Herzog is using that snapshot. So if there is a data theft or something happens, you know where to go. And it probably isn't Eric Herzog because I heard he's an honest guy from what Mark keeps telling me, but you know what? You never know. So we make sure that when you're reusing the data, the IT guys can track it so you know that your data is always safe and secure. And it's really continued to evolve. The game is changed. Cyber resilience is critical because the world is having this data-driven transformation. Protecting that data is huge. Operational and disaster recovery is a big deal. If there really was an earthquake in Silicon Valley today, hopefully there won't be since I'm here, but even if there was, most of the companies could be up and running within a couple hours somewhere else. And of course, reusing the data to accelerate application development or test or analytics. If you want to do analytics on your latest ship history, wouldn't it be nice to take a snapshot of the last 2 years of shipping and then figure out what went by boat, what went by rail, what went by truck, what went by air, what was the percentages, what was the billing, and guess what? You got a real data set and you could run analytics on that versus trying to run it on your primary data where you're trying to run that logistics information day to day. You can use a snapshot that was taken yesterday. It's real data and you could do analytics on that. So reusing data that backup has generated for you is a key thing to modern data protection. Now there's a lot of challenges though in a data protection space. You all know that data is growing exponentially, but what you probably don't know is 68% of the data stored storage. That's right, not your fastest storage arrays like our flash system, which has unmatched performance. So make sure you talk to Mark and team about that as well. But 68% isn't sitting on that high performance flash, it's sitting somewhere else. Also, of course, all companies are moving to a hybrid cloud. And one of the key use cases in hybrid cloud is backup, archive, and disaster recovery. Those are great applications. Trying to run a highly transactional database workload on the cloud, that's pretty tough, no matter who your cloud vendor is. And if you can make it work, there's usually a high ticket price for that. But for backup, for archive, and disaster recovery, clouds are ideal solution. And of course, the odds of a data breach are high. Again, it's not if you'll get attacked, it's when and how often. This makes it a big deal. And these cybersecurity challenges are expensive. The average cost of a data breach in 2018 was 3.86 million. The WannaCry attack, which was global, cost the world $8 billion. The NotPetya attack, one company alone that was impacted because they actually published the data, $310 million it cost them. So it's really, really important that you reduce the risks that are inherent with what's going on with the cybersecurity challenges that are facing the world today. So what are the trends driving this, and what are we trying to do? So you want to accelerate backup and recovery of all environments, and that includes the new world of containers. If you haven't heard about containers, it's really the evolution of the way servers are working with AI. In the old days, all applications were bare metal. You had an app, there was nothing in between. It ran on the operating system. Now, then came the era of virtualization, VMware, Hyper-V, and now we're in the era of containers, spurred by Red Hat, which IBM recently acquired, but also by other companies as well. So that's a big deal. Once you go to the container world, how do you back it up and how do you protect it? You've got storage as a service and software as a service applications that need data protection. Cloud adoption has become pervasive. What do you do? How do I do it? What sits in the cloud? What doesn't sit in the cloud? And of course, cyber resilience and compliance make a big, big deal and increase the need for both discovery and data reuse. Now, when you look at the key stakeholders here, you're probably familiar with this. You've got the business leader who's very worried about revenue loss and what has he got to do to save cost, money? How does he keep cyber resilience? You have the IT infrastructure team, of course, that's concerned with downtime complexity and also with cyber resilience, but a different way. They need to meet SLAs. If they really do have it down, they've got to recover. The ease of use and simplicity, though, because they're trying to control their own CapEx and OpEx. So a complicated data protection infrastructure or backup infrastructure doesn't help them. Line of business owners are interested in a lot of different things, one of which is self-service, which is one of the reasons I mentioned that with our software, we can track who's using it. And of course, they want to get the software put together. They want to do things like run analytics or AI workloads, and things like using API integration allows these backup and secondary data sets to talk to those applications and workloads and use cases, accelerating how they do business. So when you look at modern data protection, why do you want to do it? Straightforward: cost, cut CapEx and OpEx. Performance: you probably know that on your primary applications and workloads, the longer the backup window, the more impacted is the Oracle database, that Cassandra, or the AI workload that you're doing. And of course, if you do go down, you want the fastest recovery time possible, because all companies today, I don't care how small you are or how big you are 24/7 by 365. Everything, of course, is running in a hybrid cloud environment these days, again, whether you're big, medium, or small. Cyber resiliency is huge, and business agility. From that perspective, what you're really thinking is, how do I get the in-house software done faster and more reliably, which is where the reuse of data comes in. And then there are governance and regulatory issues, particularly when you write once, read many technology, which allows you to write the data one time, which we can do with our modern data protection, and then no one can overwrite that data. So when you're in the healthcare space, if you're a publicly traded company dealing with the SEC, any company dealing with the IRS, you've got to have these audit trails, excuse me, and it's all electronic, and you really want to make sure that you have that technology enabled. So let's go a little bit deeper and look at each of these aspects and how Champion, working with IBM, can help you save money. The newer technologies out there today are lower cost. In fact, you could couple our modern data protection with things like our flash systems. In fact, we have a recent public reference. This is from a mid-sized European company, about $1.5 billion in revenue, and they were able to reduce their backup window from 11 hours to 30 minutes. So for 11 hours in the old world, they were impacting their databases and other workloads. Now that impact is reduced to only a 30-minute window instead of 11 hours. And that's a public reference that Champion can get for you, that's available at IBM.com. You want to have a common data protection repository. Silos of data are bad for primary storage. Silos of data are bad for secondary. You want storage efficiency. You're making duplicate copies of the data, and you need to keep that data safe and protected. But you don't mind make 47 copies of the data if you really only need to make 3 or 4. okay? Flexible licensing models such as pay-as-you-go, and then operational expenses. How do you deploy it? Can you put it in a VM or container? Is it agentless? What about automation and orchestration? You want to be able to do things like set and forget. You want to set up that snapshot, and if you want that snapshot to be every 12 hours, and every 12 hours, you want to forget about it. Now, if you need to go back to the snapshot, okay, then you remember. But other than that, that snapshot is keeping the data protected. You set it and you forget it. Again, our big theme at IBM is, and always will be, storage made simple. We know you need to cut your CapEx and OpEx of your primary storage and of your modern data protection as well. Now, the other thing you want to do, two concepts are recovery time and recovery points. The recovery time is how long does it take to get the data up and usable again. The recovery point is to what time. So for example, if we had an earthquake right now, there are companies that could recover their data as to 1 second before I said there was an earthquake. Other companies, because of the way they've set up their modern data protection, and I would argue it's probably not modern data protection, might lose a day or two of data. Okay. By the way, one of the things you're going to find out as you get into this, it will vary by the type of data sets you have. Certain data sets, let's take the easy example. Let's assume you're IBM. Oh, wait, I am with IBM. And IBM owns a bunch of buildings. In those buildings are everything from desks, overhead projectors, whiteboards. And you know what? We have to inventory all of that. Any of you that are with big companies, you know that. Well, that's your asset database. Okay, in this case, don't think financial assets, think physical assets. Does that data really need to be up to speed? Like, does it recover point objective need to be like 2 minutes before the earthquake hit? Probably not. But if I'm a financial company, do you want to lose 2 minutes of global transactions for one of the largest banks or securities traders on the planet? No, because 2 minutes of transactions can be tens of millions of dollars. So you want to make sure that you can recover this. And this will vary by your application workload and use case. And also who can access what. For the larger accounts that have offices all over, you've got to be able to cover geographic data access. And of course, from the developer perspective, and those of you that have in-house software developer, self-service. You don't want them constantly going to the backup administrator or the storage administrator, hey, can I get that data? Especially in bigger shops that have large software teams, that is very untenable. So in the primary storage space, we do things like support Red Hat Ansible. In the backup data sets, the modern data protection data sets, we have self-service access, but it's controlled. So the backup admin or the storage admin knows who is looking at what. That way, if there's any issues, you're protected from that aspect of it. Hybrid cloud goes without saying. Amazon, Azure, Google, infrastructure as a service, all the various use cases for going to the cloud. In fact, let's take tiering. Our Spectrum Protect product can automatically tier, which allows you to have disaster recovery. So you back the data up to our backup repository on-prem, and then you talk to Mark and team and say, you know what? We're worried about an earthquake in California. Go, great. You can set up Spectrum Protect Suite to automatically tier data to IBM Cloud or Amazon or Azure. So if there really is an earthquake, that backup data set also now is replicated out to a cloud configuration and you can recover. And then what are you doing to support the container market? We support Red Hat, OpenShift, but we're realists at IBM. We also know that not everyone's going to use Red Hat. We wish they would. We're all IBM shareholders, but guess what? We know they don't. Containers, they're not just Red Hat OpenShift. Containers can be generic. The Kubernetes management framework is the key, and there are people who are not going to use Red Hat. We will support those who use Red Hat and those who do not. The IBM Cloud Packs are designed to work with Red Hat OpenShift and in container environments, and we support that as well, making sure that all the data generated in an IBM Cloud Pack can constantly be protected. Cyber resiliency is a huge issue. Malware, ransomware, how do you detect it? We're able to take workload anomalies and workload patterns and figure out if something's wrong. We then will send you, whoever you designate, a message. We make sure we have dual authorization in almost all of our products and end-to-end encryption, whether that be on-prem or as it goes out to the cloud. So if you're replicating data to the cloud, it's encrypted. On our flash systems or our DS family of storage arrays, we can encrypt the data at rest. This is a big issue to make sure that when data is moved around, it is encrypted. And when you think about it, if you look at an overall security strategy, you've got, of course, keeping the bad guy out. You've got the way to track the bad guy down. Okay, everyone has those things. But you know what? As you probably noticed on one of the other slides, with one of the attacks, the IT department didn't know for 200 days they had an attack going. That's very common. When you talk to CIOs and executives in IT, sometimes they know right away they've been attacked. Other times the bad guy's in there for weeks at a time before they find it out. So having a cyber resilient storage portfolio, things like tape air gapping, we can also air gap out to the cloud, immutable storage, encryption like we talked about, all these things. When the bad guy is in the house, they can't steal your TV, they can't steal your refrigerator, they can't even open the refrigerator door to steal your food, okay? And there are times when you won't know that they're in there trying to steal your stuff. So having a full cyber resiliency strategy that includes both your primary storage and your modern data protection is critical. And you want to make sure that you can leverage that with AI. You want it to be as automated as possible. The workload pattern anomaly is all AI based. AI technology works with workload patterns. When it sees a change in that workload pattern, it notifies you. When the workload pattern becomes normal, aka you really change the workload, it stops the notification. It learns what AI is supposed to do. So you want to make sure that you're leveraging these technologies to make sure that you keep things safe and protected. You also want to make sure that you can respond. If you have an incident, how are you going to respond? So we can do another things through Champion. With our lab services team, we can do a storage resiliency assessment. We can look at all your storage, not just ours, but if you're heterogeneous, our competitors as well, come out with what you need to do. We can help implement that. We can do a workshop through Champion and then come up with a way to get you everything that you need. And then obviously, you should be checking on this on a regular basis, okay? I would argue the same thing for disaster recovery and business continuity. One of the big pitfalls is people buy disaster recovery and business continuity technologies, such as replication and snapshotting technology, which comes from IBM, Champion deploys it, and then you don't test it. A well-run IT department would be testing that. In this case, you would test your cyber resilience, its response as well. Now, one of the things we've done as an example is what we call safeguarded copy on the mainframe. This allows us to help you avoid cyber attacks and do a rapid recovery. We can create on our mainframe configuration, and by the way, we are looking at doing this in non-frame environments as well, but not till next year. But right now on the mainframe, we can do this. You created these safeguards copy. These are immutable. They can't change. They can't be overwritten. If you have a cyber incident, you can recover to a secondary volume on a secondary system. Then once you've cleaned off your production data, both on the server side and on the storage side, you can restore from the recovery volume using your safeguarded copies. So this allows you to always have a method to recover from a malware attack or a ransomware attack and allow it to be rapid. At the same time, because you're on a mainframe, you probably can do a failover to another mainframe config in a highly clustered environment to make sure that you've got a good mainframe that's not infected with a malware or ransomware, and use recovery volume to help you work on that other mainframe. You want to make sure you also leverage cyber resiliency and modern data protection for business agility. So you say, business agility, what does it have to do to backup? Well, guess what? It's not backup anymore. It's modern data protection. You want to have things like copy data management for data mobility. You've got a snapshot. If you're going to do, if you're a big company, you're based in Silicon Valley, and you want to do the analytics in Florida, great. Take that snap, allow the Florida team to access that. You could even move the data to a local location and let them do the analytics there. Reuse data for software development, which is heavily tied to self-service, so that the software developers can access the secondary data sets, create their software. That said, we make sure that we're tracking it. We also have information about information. That's right. There's a thing called metadata, and metadata is the information about your information. It's a small set that allows you to track things. It allows you to catalog and index. It allows you to do e-discovery more rapidly. It allows you to understand where the data is. It allows you even to optimize the storage. Using metadata cataloging index, you can realize that you got 47 copies of the data when you really need 3 or 4. Okay, if you only need 3 or 4, then you can get rid of 43 or 44 of those data copies, which means you buy less storage and mean you more efficiently use that storage. And then you can also, of course, do proactive data management, whether that be capacity planning, performance measuring, heterogeneous protection management. Remember, all of our modern data protection cyber resiliency products in our Spectrum suite work not only with IBM storage, but work with all our competitors as well. We've got a multi-component architecture today with our Spectrum Protect Plus and Spectrum Protect. These, by the way, are put together in our Spectrum Protect suite. So you get both of these together, or you can buy them separately. Spectrum Protect is our bellwether. It's used across tons of the global Fortune 500, probably about 50 to 60%. Spectrum Protect Plus is a more light modular type of configuration. It's ideal for container workloads. It's ideal for virtualization workloads, and it can seamlessly interoperate with IBM Spectrum Protect, which is why we created the suite. So allowing them to work together for both your containerized and your VMware or Hyper-V based workloads. So Protect, it's proven, comprehensive data protection, highly scalable. You can handle as much as 100 terabytes of new or data change, and a single Spectrum Protect server can manage billions of objects. So for those of you in the middle size, 4 to 5 billion and up, Protect is for you. It's also, even in smaller companies, if you're in healthcare or finance, Protect is probably where you want to go. It can move data to cloud, to flash, to hard drives, to tape. It can do anything that you want. It's got incredible cyber resiliency. We have this ransomware detection capability, 2-key authorization, native support for tape, which gives you that physical air gapping. So you've got a number of advantages here, from a highly scalability configuration to heavy cyber resiliency, as well as traditional modern data protection, and a secure, cost-effective methodology for storing that data, whether it be on-prem in a disk configuration or a tape configuration, or whether that be going out to anyone who supports Amazon S3. Remember, Amazon is not the only one supporting that S3 protocol. There are thousands of small and medium cloud providers that support it. We can seamlessly integrate with them, as well as the large cloud providers, IBM, Amazon, Azure, and a coming announcement that'll be announced at the end of the month with Google Cloud as well. Lots of differentiators here, highly efficient. Many servers can be managed with a single user interface. We can reduce backup infrastructure costs up to 53%. Remember, we talked about things like data reduction technology, not over optimizing, again, making use and getting rid of duplicate copies. You always will need duplicates, but don't have 47 copies, have 3 or 4. This is a full software functionality. You don't need to have an appliance. You buy whatever server you want from Champion. They can deploy this, and of course, you can back up anything you want. Protect Plus is more lightweight. It's VMware and Hyper-V centric with a heavy dose of containers and Kubernetes. It's agentless. It can back up physical or virtual environments. Databases and applications can be running physically, virtually in the cloud, both IBM Cloud and AWS, and we are beta of Spectrum Protect Plus with Microsoft Azure. So if any of you are interested, please reach out to Champion. We will be announcing that at the end of the month on October 27th, and we'll start taking possible beta accounts beginning in November. So if you're interested in working, if you're already using Microsoft Azure, we'd be more than happy to have you work with us on this. So one of the key things of Protect Plus is not only the backup and recovery and disaster, recovery that you're used to, but cyber resiliency aspects, and again, data reuse technologies. These are all use cases and workloads. Before, it just was said, back up my data. Well, it's not just backing up your data now. We can create air gaps. We can go out to the cloud You can have extra data protection because the backup data set not only can back up on-prem, but backed up in the cloud. If there really is an earthquake in Silicon Valley today, I hope I'm not jinxing myself. Well, guess what? We can take care of that and we can protect it. Our Spectrum copy data management software allows you to make replicas and copy. This provides the software interface that allows the software guy, not the backup guy, but the software developer to self-service. Yet the backup guy or the storage guy can track it to make sure that all the copies are checked out, who has it, who did what. If there's anything amiss, they can check into it. Obviously, Eric Herzog is honest. So if I use Spectrum Copy Data Management, configure my own snapshots, I can quickly develop my software. Of course, I didn't steal anything. But you know what? When you've got thousands of people in larger companies, this is an important aspect. So you've got a broad data protection portfolio. We want to make sure that you've got core data protection technologies, data protection integrated and testing, that's important, and targets for data protection, going out to the cloud, going to tape. You can even go out to object storage or our IBM Spectrum Scale, which provides yottabytes of capacity. That's right, not petabytes, not exabytes, but yottabytes. So these giant data lakes, you can make sure you're constantly backing up your data, keeping it safe. Our Spectrum Archive technology allows you to use tape in a more easy fashion. Basically what it does is provide a file system, LTFS, and basically you can move data around just like you're moving data around in a Windows or a Macintosh environment. It's very, very cost effective because of data tiering and the protection created by multiple copies of the data because you're going out to a tape environment. Which leads us to tape. We have a broad tape portfolio, whether it be on the mainframe or for other environments as well. We even support virtual enterprise libraries on the Z side. But for everything else, we've got all kinds of libraries for the mid-range, entry. We even have, just a standard small tape. If you're Herzog's Bar and Grill, we can go ahead and do that. IBM has already publicly announced it's supporting the new LTO. So the new LTO 9, which was announced in September. We were part of that launch and we will be supporting it. We'll be talking more about that the last week. On October 27th, we're having a major launch and we'll be talking about tape as part of that. For the discussion, for most of you, I know only some of you have mainframes in our Champion portfolio, but most of this, of course, is for non-mainframe environments. So we've got a really strong strategy here. We have decades of innovation, backup, the old methodology, tape, the old way. We're moving all of this forward from bare metal to virtualized environments to container environments. We've gone from backup to modern data protection. We've incorporated cyber resiliency to make sure that what you're doing is always safe and protected. So we've also announced a utility model, which is available now on many of our storage systems, and Champion can work with you. So instead of having your storage be a capital expense, it can be an operational expense as well. Here's some examples. These are all public references using our cyber resilience and backup technology. You can see all kinds of savings, all kinds of different workloads. And of course, you can see at the bottom what we do across our portfolio. So we've got some free trials available for you. Please coordinate that with Champion, Spectrum Protect Plus, which we talked about today. Cyber resiliency assessment, we can help you do that. So take a look at what we've got. Champion can work through this for you. All these trials are no obligation. They cost you nothing. A particular import, particularly to this discussion today, we're taking a look at Spectrum charge for 90 days and the cyber resiliency assessment. Really, really important in today's environments relative to what we talked about today. But we have all of the free things that we have today. The last thing, please join our storage community. We have a storage community. It is available to end users and technical experts, 4,000 members globally. 1,000 are our business partners such as Champion and IBMers. The other 3,000 are end users such as yourself. It's a great community. You can learn from each other. Not only we see technical information posted by IBMers, our development community, our SMEs, our technical support teams, but many of the community write their own blogs. What did I do to optimize data protection for my Oracle workload? How did I dramatically improve performance on Mongo or Cassandra? What did I do for my AI analytics, and how they used IBM storage technology to do that? Coming from you, other members of the community, not from IBM. Yes, we do have some of our own stuff, not from our partners. Okay, yes, Champion and other partners do post, but the bulk of what you see on this site is from end users such as yourselves talking to you about how to better use IBM technology. So please make sure you join the community. It's free, no charge, and it's a great way to learn about IBM storage. So with that, I'd like to thank you. And for the last minute, I'd like to hand it back to Mark. Mark, you have the floor.
Eric, thank you so much for taking us through that presentation. Lots of great insight to our customers and IBMers on the phone. We are getting now more meetings for just the same reasons why Eric was just what he just presented to you. It's a growing concern around cybersecurity, how to manage your data, and we at Champion are ready to go help you with that, with great professionals who have been working with IBM, like I said, for the past 26 years. So again, here's the next steps, right? Greg Larkin, who I did not introduce a little bit earlier. I don't know if he can actually communicate or if he's silenced on this. He is my data management practice leader here at Champion. And if you schedule a meeting before October 31st, so a couple weeks from now, you'll receive a free complimentary drone. And hopefully you'll enjoy that drone, but more important, you'll enjoy the conversation around what is happening in your environment today, the new requirements of this business world now that we're in this COVID world, and how we go to work every day. It has changed how we look at cyber security, how we look at data management, and we're working with our customers in many different capacities to go do that. So again, you can get a hold of Greg Larkin at glarkin@championsg.com, or you can simply use our 1-800 number, 771-7000, ask for Greg, and you'll be forwarded to him, and we can get a scheduled meeting with one of your local reps. And again, if you're welcome folks today at your properties, we'll be glad to visit. But most of our meetings like this are via WebEx or Teams or those type of things. But either way that you create the meeting, we'll be glad to send you that drone. With that, just to finalize, are there any questions that are out there? And I don't know how to use WebEx as well, since I do Teams a lot. Are there any questions out there that we can answer for you today with the time remaining? And Eric, if you know how to open up any chats or those type of things, I'll be glad to look at them.
Yeah, so go to webinar control panel. There is a question box. If you could type them in, we can answer the questions for you. We can't unmute everybody, so please feel free to go ahead and use the question box. Also, this presentation will be available from Champion, so you'll be able to get that from Champion later today. It'll be posted up and sent to those who registered.
Okay, with that, I don't think there's any questions right now for us to answer. With that, Eric, and to the IBM team, thank you for your time. To my customers, thank you for your time. I know you're all busy. You get hit with lots of invites from almost everybody today around webinars, so I do appreciate your time. Hopefully the content was valuable for you today. Like I said, on November the 17th, we'll conduct another series seminar. The topic will be how to make AI and big data work effectively and profitably for your company. So if that is of interest to you, you'll see those invites out very soon, and we are working and developing the third in the series in December, still to be created. So with that, I want to thank everybody for their time today, and I hope everybody has a safe and a happy day. Thank you.